I remember hitting a huge milestone in my engineering career. It was exactly what I wanted 5 years ago. I should have been popping champagne, right? Instead, I sat in my car in the parking lot and felt nothing. I was just bored. And at the same time, I remember thinking, man, what's wrong with me? This was the goal, this was the thing I worked for, and now that I have it, I felt like I was watching someone else's life. And that is when the internal war starts. One version of you remembers being ambitious and responsible, that version had goals, that version was hungry. But the new version just wants to quit everything, maybe move to Portugal and open a sandwich shop. Great life. So you do what anyone else is doing. You ignore that weird feeling, you try even harder, you double down on the habits that used to work because it makes sense, right? More discipline, more structure, more spreadsheets, and more projects, and you starve. Not because you're lazy, not because you're broken, but because you're feeding your old self. And your new self is sitting here in the corner, hungry, wondering when or if someone else will notice that they even exist. Hey, I'm Mihnea and I spend years doing exactly that, feeding my old self, maybe you can see. Doubling down on the habits that used to work, wondering why I felt empty every single time I checked something on my list. I thought maybe I needed a vacation, maybe I needed a new job, and maybe I was ungrateful. I know, weird thoughts. But back in 2022, I discovered this framework that explained everything, the process communication model. It did not just help me understand other people, it answered questions that I had about myself I didn't even know I was asking. And on this channel, we explore how people work and not how they are supposed to work. And today I'm going to show you the mechanics behind your motivation changes, why your old fuel stopped working, and why that's none of your fault. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your hunger has changed, you will learn why feeding your old self is actually starving the new one, and you will know exactly what to put on the plate to fill that drive again. There's no therapist required here, although honestly therapists are great and I owe mine a lot. They just charge a bit more than you do. So what is actually happening inside you? If you watch my video about the condominium, you already know the structure, but if not, do not worry, I'll give you what you need to understand this video. Link in the description as well if you want a full deep dive later on. Here is the short version. Imagine your personality is like a 6-story building and you have all those 6 personalities inside you stacked in a very specific order. Everyone has the same 6 floors, but they are arranged differently for everyone. The ground floor is what's called the base. This is how you see the world, your perception and your language, the way you talk and the way you hear others. You are born with it and this never changes. But just because your base is on the ground floor doesn't mean you also live at the ground floor anymore. The floor that you currently live, where your hunger actually is, it's called the phase. And here is where it gets really interesting. Your phase is not about how you see the world, your phase is what you need. Your current psychological hunger, what motivates you, what fills you up, what makes you feel alive. And for a lot of people, the base and the floor are completely different levels. For example, that means that you might talk like a thinker, all data and logic, and you might say things like I think and let me explain, but your hunger, what motivates you right now to feel satisfied, this is maybe living on a completely different floor. You are speaking one language, but you're starving for a completely different kind of food. And if you do not know that, you will keep ordering the same food over and over again, wondering why you leave the table hungry. So why does this happen? Why do we move floors? When we are born, your base and your phase are the same and you're living on the ground floor. Makes sense. Your language and your needs are perfectly aligned and it's quite simple. Some people, about 1/3 of the population, they will stay on the ground floor their entire lives and they never phase. This is completely normal and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But for the other 2/3 of the population, something happens. Usually it's triggered by a major life challenge, a loss, a crisis, or just a long period of intense stress that forces you to grow. So what's happening? You face that challenge, you master it, and you come out on the other side a different person. And as a result, you pack up your bags and you move to the next floor. I have done this 4 times. Thinker to harmonizer, harmonizer to persister, persister to imaginer, and imaginer to rebel now. Each time something shifted. Things that used to fill me up just stopped working. But here is what I want you to understand, the critical part. My base has never moved. I still talk like a thinker. I still see the world through logic. That is my language. But my motivation, what actually makes me feel alive, has moved 4 times. It's same language, but different hunger every single time. So how do you know if this happened to you as well? The most reliable signal is how you act under stress. When your batteries are depleted, you don't just get tired, you act in a really specific pattern. Like a warning light on your dashboard. There's lights for everything now. And that pattern matches your current phase, not your base. So if your stress behavior has changed, your phase probably have changed too. I used to passively wait, feel helpless. That was classic imaginer. But a few months ago, I noticed something different. When I get stressed, I start to whine a bit, start to blame, get a bit negative, saying things like, this is completely stupid, I don't like this. That shift on me was not me becoming a worse person. I hope everyone knows that. I had just moved to a different floor. But for now, just ask yourself, does this stress feel different to you now than it was 5 years ago? And if yes, you have probably moved floors as well. So, okay, now you would ask, okay, if this phasing is so natural, why does it feel so terrible? The problem is not phasing itself. The problem is that most of us don't even notice it happens. Think about it. You spend most of your life mastering your base, you get really good at it, you get praised for it, you build an entire identity around it. If you have a thinker base like me, you probably build a career that rewards logic, structure, and data. And you become the one that is organized, that one that is reliable. And don't get me wrong, it worked for years. It really worked. It got me here. Then you phase. Maybe you move to a rebel floor. Suddenly, your hunger changes. You do not crave structure anymore. You crave play and spontaneity. But you do not know that. So you keep doing what you have done so far. More discipline, more structure, more food that used to work. Makes sense, right? I did this for far longer than I want to admit. I kept doubling down on productivity system, new apps, new routines, new ways to organize my life. Because that is what it always worked before, right? Every single time I completed something and I felt nothing. It was just empty. I started thinking, maybe I'm depressed, maybe I'm burned out, maybe I just need to try harder. Luckily, I was not depressed, but I was a zombie. A competent and functional zombie, still doing the work, quite good, getting praised for it even, but still completely hollow inside. I was a productivity zombie, walking around checking boxes, wondering why none that I do matters anymore. You have probably felt this. You are doing everything right, the same habit, the same discipline, the same approach that got you here, but something feels off. You feel like you're going through the motions, and the worst part, everyone around you thinks you're doing fine because on the outside you look successful, and unfortunately you are just feeding the version of yourself that no longer exists anymore. Once you realize you have moved floors, the fix is simple, but it requires a lot of courage because you just change your diet. The biggest mistake people make is confusing their skills with their needs. They are not the same thing. You have been incredible at organizing data, you have done it for 10 years maybe, and everyone praises you for it. But if you have phased to a different floor, organizing data now costs you energy. It's not your fuel anymore, it's basically your job. You can still do it, you're still good at it, but it does not fill up your tank, it drains you. I kept making this mistake. I was good at structure and productivity that I assume is still feeding me. Every time I felt empty, I thought, I just need maybe to find a more efficient system. Oh boy, I was wrong. I was eating the same meal every single day, wondering why I still feel hungry. The meal itself was perfectly fine, but my stomach just changed. And here is the shift. You do not have to quit your job, please don't do that. You don't have to abandon everything you built so far, don't do that. You have to stop expecting your old favorite dishes to still satisfy your new hunger. Every floor has a different fuel. Harmonizer needs warmth and connection, Persister needs meaningful work, Imaginer needs solitude, Rebel needs play, Promoter needs excitement, and guess what? Thinker needs structure. And I'm building out a full series of what each floor specific needs, And if you want to have a deeper dive onto each floor, those videos are coming, so wait for it. But the rule is simple. Talk your base and feed your face. Your base is how you see the world, how you communicate, that stays the same. And your face is what you need. That's where your fuel comes from. Stop ordering from the old menu because your taste buds have changed. Remember that guy sitting in his car staring at his big achievement feeling absolutely nothing? Well, that was me. I stayed there stuck for far longer than I want to admit, feeding my old self, wondering why I'm still feeling hungry. If you ignore this shift, you will eventually burn out. And not because you're weak, not because you're ungrateful, but because you keep serving a meal to someone that moved out years ago. But if you accept this change, boy oh boy, you have exciting times ahead. You keep all the strengths from your old self, you keep your base, you keep your language, and especially your skills. These are not going anywhere. But you discover a whole new source of energy, a fuel tank that you don't even know you had. Remember, talk your base and feed your face. If you want to find out more about each personality type, I have a playlist somewhere right here on the screen. Find your floors, find your fuel, and stop starving yourself. I'll see you next time. Cheers.